7:03, and I will call the meeting of the District of Columbia Board of Ethics and Government Accountability to order. This is our April meeting. I'm Norma Hutcheson, the BEGA Chairperson, and due to COVID-19, this meeting is being held virtually via WebEx, and joining me today for this meeting are Charles Nottingham and Darrin Sobin. Ms. Smith will not be joining us, and Ms. Tucker may join us later. However, the three of us who are here constitute a quorum. So if I'd like to have a motion to adopt the agenda for today.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, no, there are only three of us here. So it's been moved and seconded, and we've adopted the agenda. I believe the minutes from the March meeting were uploaded for your review. And if you would take a minute to look at them again, and then I'd like to accept the minutes from our March meeting.
Madam Chair, I just had one question about the minutes. Look good. At the end, notice there's a public comment, but I'm not sure I saw during the meeting. Is that something we can talk about later? I just want to make sure the public comment is acknowledged or have a chance to ask about it.
Yeah, I don't believe at the time of the meeting, it had to have been uploaded, I think, by 11 o'clock, so presumably it was there and we didn't discuss it last time. Is there something there that?
No, just to make sure we're, if it appears to be a good faith question about the status of quarterly reports by the Director of Government Ethics. I just wanted to make sure filing quarterly reports we're supposed to, if we are.
Yeah,
Hi, I don't know if Rashi wanted to comment. She can explain whether the comments came in and how they were posted. But as I addressed in the meeting, and I've been in contact with the public commenter, his name is, I believe, I don't want to state McDuffie. So we've been in contact, so he is aware of our plans to publish the reports.
That's all. That's my question. I'll offer a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, all right. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There were no matters to report out at the end of it.
That is correct.
Okay, yeah, I'll second.
Okay, is there any other discussion, any other questions? Okay, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, opposed, then we will move forward with our first report on the Office of Open Government. Director Allen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I am Niquelle Allen, Director of Open Government, and I am pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Open Government.
Okay,
since the last board meeting, OOG has continued to fulfill its mission of ensuring that all persons receive full and complete information regarding the affairs of the district government and the actions of those who represent them. I'm going to start with Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act advice. OOG has not issued any advisory opinions since the last board meeting. OOG continues to provide formal and informal advice regarding the operation of the Open Meetings Act and FOIA during the public health emergency in writing and via email. In writing, via email, and orally. FOIA advice that's formally rendered. OOG's legal staff and OGE's general counsel, Rashi Raj, continue to provide BEGA's pending FOIA requesters with a letter detailing the COVID-related changes to the FOIA requirements and the impact of those changes on their FOIA requests. Currently, all requests received by BEGA's FOIA officer, who is Sharita Berry, on or after January 16, 2021, will be processed under normal FOIA rules. However, if the request requires this agency to search for records located in our physical office, our response to the request is not due until 45 days after the public health emergency has concluded. informal Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act advice. OOG continues to experience a high volume of requests for advice and assistance on open government matters. As you know, this is due to the pandemic and the insurrection. The office responded to 16 requests for Open Meetings Act advice, 14 requests for FOIA advice, and 12 requests for technical assistance with open-dc.gov, our website. The next item are training and outreach. We were very busy in this area this past month in March. The first training, the Office of the Attorney General Legal Ethics Training. On March 10th, I and OOG's legal staff attended March Madness and Legal Ethics Training presented by OAG. The trainers presented helpful hypotheticals and scenarios regarding ethical conduct, and the DC Bar attorney also facilitated this training along with the OAG attorney. The Office of Unified Communications received a FOIA training from Attorney from Attorney Barton, and Attorney DeBerry also attended. ABRA also received OMA training. Attorney DeBerry conducted that training on March 16th for the ABC board. Open Government Summit. On March 18th, the DC Open Government Coalition, along with the Office of Open Government and other leaders and guests, came together during the annual Sunshine Week. Our program included 3 segments, one of which I participated in a panel, and I discussed DC agencies' compliance with FOIA requests during the pandemic and MPD's over-redaction of body-worn camera footage prior to its release. Sunshine Week was held virtually this year from March 14th to March 20th. Open government-related issues, forums, and events were held during the week all over the country. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank board members Nottingham and Tucker and Director Ford for attending our Sunshine Week program, and all other BEGA officials and staff members who may have attended that I may have missed. We greatly appreciate your support. The next item is Office of the Attorney General's Due Process Training. On March 19th, I and OOG legal staff attended Due Process in a Nutshell, I Don't Like What the Government Did, training presented by the OAG. The training covered basic concepts in defending the districts from due process claims by discussing real-world examples, controlling case law, and practice tips. The next training session was hosted by the Department of Human Resources, and it was management training. So during the week of March 22nd, Chief Counsel Barton and I attended DCHR's week-long training conference, The Managerial Experience from Challenge to Change. DCHR offered a variety of informative trainings to assist DC agency leaders and managers in the execution of their positions. BEGA leaders and managers participated in the training conference, and during the week collectively, Attorney Barton and I attended the following training courses: switching off, presenting burnout, understanding and unpacking bias, manager mindfulness and stress, performance evaluation, how to use conflict as an opportunity, disability, employment, and inclusion, the time is now, understanding employee compensation, and prioritizing a psychologically healthy workplace. The next item is the Advisory Opinion Indexing Project. IT specialist Kavan Bridges conducted a virtual meeting with the BEGA intern, Ms. Jess Hernandez, on March 26th. He discussed the Advisory Opinion Indexing Project, where the website will make advisory opinions searchable by keyword. I was also present at the virtual meeting. Video and audio FOIA records webinar. On March 30th, OOG Chief Counsel Barton attended the government Q&A webinar responding to video, audio, public records requests in California. The webinar discussed the redaction of audio and video requests and included a demonstration of GovQA's program for redacting these records. And the last item in this category is mandatory Zero Vision training. OOG legal staff completed Zero Vision training this month. The mandatory training presented an insightful information on motor vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrian accidents in the district, and the associated fines and penalties were also discussed. So the next item is the legislative and litigation update. Litigation, as we've said, OOG is monitoring FOIA-related cases in DC Superior Court. We're not a party to any of these lawsuits, and I'm providing the information for the board's awareness of litigation that may impact the operation and interpretation of DC FOIA law. A TPM lawsuit update, and this is an update on the FOIA case filed against the district on July 13th, 2020, by the law firm Terrace, Plavick, and Millen. The FOIA lawsuit alleges that DC failed to produce and post online various budget-related documents as required by FOIA. The complaint alleges that the Executive Office of the Mayor failed to produce documents related to the Office of the State Superintendent of Education and the District of Columbia Public Schools. On March 10th, TPM and the district submitted a joint motion requesting a scheduling order and request related relief. On March 16th, the court granted this motion and vacated a March 19th status conference, and they set their schedule for this litigation. So on April 16th, they have a deadline to move for summary judgment. On April 23rd is a deadline for amicus curiae brief. On May 14th, is the deadline for DC to file a cross motion for summary judgment in opposition to the TPM's motion. June 11th is the deadline for TPM to reply in support of this motion and oppose the district's cross motion for summary judgment. June 30th is the deadline for the district to file its reply. If the case is not resolved by its entirety by the court's adjudication of the cross motions, the court will schedule a status conference to address the remaining issues. Stop and frisk FOIA lawsuit. On February 16th, ACLU filed a lawsuit against the District of Columbia seeking records concerning stop and frisk by MPD. MPD is required to retain these statistics pursuant to the Near Engagement Archives Result Act. The complaint of the ACLU seeks declaratory and injunctive relief to compel the district to provide documents. On March 14th, ACLU filed plaintiff's consent motion to hold its motion for preliminary injunction in abeyance pending defendant's March 15th, 2021 production. MPD has published a portion of the data that ACLU requested and sued MPD to obtain. In defendant's opposition to plaintiff's motion for preliminary injunction, MPD stated it would publish the requested data by March 15th. On March 8th, the district notified the court that on March 5th, MPD published all police stop data for January through December 2020. The district notified that the data was publicly available on MPD's website. The district contends that MPD's publication of all the data moots the plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction in this complaint. OOG will continue to monitor this matter. The next matter is legislation. In August 2020, the District of Columbia Council established the Police Reform Commission to advise the DC Council on comprehensive police reform. The Commission's research, community input, and recommendations will inform legislation that the DC Council Committee on the Judiciary plans to introduce to effectuate police reform. The final meeting of the Commission was March 22nd. At that meeting, the Commission agreed with the OOG's findings in our November 5th, 2020 advisory opinion on MPD's compliance with FOIA regarding its release of body-worn camera footage to FOIA requesters. As you know, we found that the over-redaction of these videos led to costly FOIA bills presented to requesters when seeking this information. The committee agreed with our assessment that MPD should release the video footage with less redaction. The last matter is administrative matters. Our attorney advisor and trial attorney vacancies. From March 8th to 19th, we conducted interviews for our vacant attorney positions, and we have selected candidates to fill the positions and plan to extend offers to the most qualified candidates in the near future. This concludes the Office of the Open Government April 1st, 2020 report. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have some, and thank you for the opportunity to present our report.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Are there any questions for Ms. Allen? No, thank you for a very comprehensive report. Next, we'll go to our report from our Office of Government Ethics, and Director Ford, you may proceed. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rochelle Ford, and I am the Director of Government Ethics, and I'm pleased to be here with the board today to present an update on the activities of the Office of Government Ethics. First, I will provide an overview of our operations with respect to our investigations. The information that is being reported today regarding our cases will not reflect any status changes that may occur as a result of any actions taken by the board during today's meeting. First, open investigations by status. There are 54 investigations open and one matter that is at the negotiation stage, for a total of 55 open investigations. We have no matters pending as undocketed. There are still 27 matters that are closed pending collection. And we have 3 matters that are stayed pending an OAG False Claims Act case investigation, and 9 matters pending OIG investigation that are stayed. And there are no matters stayed pending district court action, for a total of 41 matters that are pending or stayed. There are still 24 regulatory matters that are closed pending collection, but the collections team is looking to address those in the near term. Looking back across time, we have 55 matters open this month, with 12 matters stayed in comparison, or rather, and for the last 2 months, we've had 53 matters open. The number of open matters reflects 7 new investigations that have been opened since the board last met. Next, with respect to training and outreach, during the month of March, OGE's auditor completed the following trainings offered by DCHR: classifying and collecting data, business analysis overview, quality and security of big data operations, classifying and collecting data. Again, looks like an Excel and an Excel 365 workshop. As Director Allen mentioned, I attended, along with supervisory attorney Ashley Cooks, attended the Open Government Summit that was co-sponsored by OOG and the Office of Open Government and the Open Government Coalition. It was an interesting and robust discussion. So I thank you for inviting us, and we invited our staff to attend as well. And some were able to also participate. In addition, Supervisory Attorney Cooks and I attended a training on creating effective compliance training programs. It was a workshop, but it was so packed full of material that we both found it to be amazing and overwhelming, but also intense. I want to acknowledge that Attorney Cooks was able to provide information to other ethics trainers across the nation about our Miss Ethics video, which was well received, as we explained, as we showed what we do here in the district. But we learned about how to best tailor content for adult learners, to identify ways to provide learning or material for individuals who learn in different manners or different ways, and also learned how to better package our content. So we're really looking forward to moving forward with some of the ideas that we learned from that experience. And so the brochure for that, the agenda, we uploaded so you can get a sense of the content that we covered. All of our attorneys, as Director Allen mentioned, attended DCHR's managerial experience from challenge to change. It was a comprehensive week of very interesting and exciting trainings that were offered on a new training platform. They did a great job of offering sessions at multiple times, so employees were able to get their work done and also attend. And as Director Allen indicated, staff attended trainings and workshops on matters related to stress management and managing staff during the pandemic, addressing critical incidents, coaching and performance management, and hiring and recruiting. So I think all of our staff benefited, as you all know, the attorneys in the office, as well as myself and Supervisory Attorney Cooks and GC Raj, all work with the team. So I think we all were able to come away with that. I'm looking forward to upcoming trainings. Although the pandemic has prevented us from enjoying the benefits of working together and has changed the way that we do some of our investigations, we are still using this time to continue to work to improve our skill set and agency processes. So we're going to attend a 2-day workplace compliance investigations training as a team. Although that we are, our team is well skilled in terms of their technique, this training will also allow us to talk about best practices and procedures for an investigations program as well. So there will be some presentations on that. I again uploaded the agenda so you can see what we will be learning as a team, and we're going to take some of that material and use it as part of our ongoing working team process to continue to standardize and memorialize some of our practices. Next, trainings conducted by staff. Since our last board meeting, OGE attorneys conducted 3 total ethics trainings, including a monthly ethics training, an ethics training for ABRA, and our virtual brown bag forum, which I'll discuss in a moment. We were not able to retrieve the numbers of online training attendees, but I will provide that if it comes in soon, or I will put it in the minutes and give it to the board. Our ethics brown bag forum this month was held on Monday, March 29th, and the forum featured a discussion about the financial disclosure statements that district employees and public officials are required to file in the program. And so our discussion was led by attorney advisor Asia Stewart Mitchell. She did an excellent job. And our auditor also provided a presentation about his process for auditing public and confidential filings, and they both were able to answer questions. The forum focused on our new revised FDS filing form, which I'll discuss later in this presentation, gave advice and answered questions on how to better designate filers. Given seen in terms of our appeals, we wanted to relay to the ethics counselors how to better inform their filers that they have been designated, and how to teach them how to appeal the designation if need be. We talked about communication with filers more clearly, and record keeping obligations and best practices, and answered questions.
How was attendance? I'm sorry to interrupt. How was attendance at the brown bag?
Ashley can climb with the numbers, but I saw a lot of, I don't know. Ashley can tell you the exact number, but it was well attended. I'm pretty confident.
Well, that's all I wanted to know. It was well attended.
But she'll text me.
There were between 40 to 50 ethics counselors.
That's great. That's really good. Getting the buy-in of the ethics counselors is key to this whole thing.
I think so. As you know, last year I asked the council to formally define the ethics counselor role, just reflecting what was in the old CMPA. That's the Comprehensive Merit Personnel Act. After doing research and looking, of course, at benchmark peer agencies and other commissions, but also modeling off of the OGE system, we are centralized, but there are 85 agencies in the district, and they all do different things. And so it is important for us to be able to be, a resource, but also to have a connection. We also have an obligation under our statute to be aware of every agency's supplemental regulations. And so we'll be talking more about, but we're beginning to do, I won't call it a program review, but it is built upon OGE's full annual compliance review that looks to find out, to get a sense of how many ethics questions are being asked, you get arranged, how are they being handled, at what level, how many employees work on ethics, if they find any issues, and we're trying to begin to collect that data so that we can better share with our councils. We've gotten great feedback, and I don't want to overspeak because Ashley does such a great job and she knows better than I do, but I think we had 80 people or up to 70 people at the one from last month, but we usually, I think, get above 30, but as high as 50 or 60 participants, but let me know, Ashley. I'm overstating.
You're correct. We had our largest attendance ever at the not the February brown bag meeting. So it was the largest.
And that was when we had a presenter, and she was well received. I heard back from her, and ethics counselors reached out to her as well to follow up and potentially have her come out even to their agency. And Supervisory Attorney Cooks and I are thinking, who knows, we may all be together again soon, we hope. But we know that there is an excellent ethics game that we would like to work with, to use with our counselors. So we are beginning, I think, to get that discussion. We had a robust discussion in the chat, lots of good back and forth, and it gave people an opportunity to understand what it is that we do here and how our process works. And we were candid that we are learning from our process and trying to improve and want their input, and they seem to be willing to provide that. So I thought it was a really good session. Attorney Stuart Mitchell oversaw drafting the, setting out the agenda, presentation, organized and worked with Emmanuel and led the discussion more than, excellently. So she did a great job. Awesome. Emphasize that. Next, with respect to informal advice, we provided advice to 46 inquiries, which is 4 less than the reported 50 from last month. I looked back over the year, of course, and at this time we had begun the pandemic. I think we may have skipped this meeting, but in any event, our numbers are beginning to go back up. I hope that our outreach program will lead to more telephone calls to our office, more inquiries. But we are getting employees who are saying, oh, wait, I heard something that made me lead to call. So we're beginning to note some feedback from that. We have not issued an advisory opinion. As I mentioned, there is one in draft from Attorney Cooks. And we'll be turning that around and giving that to the board before we post it for public review. It's just that I need to get the last little sign-in, but she's done an excellent job. And we will be issuing an opinion on seeking and negotiating employment for the district public officials and employees. Next, legislative update. On March 16th of 2021, DC Act 23570 became effective. And under that act, BEGA now has the authority to extend the deadline to file financial disclosure forms during a public health crisis. As you may recall, last year, the council passed a temporary act that allowed us to change the deadlines in 2020 specifically. That was now, that law has been formally memorialized and allows us to change the deadline. The IRS has recently extended the deadline for filing federal taxes for 1 month this year for an additional 30 days. And so after consulting with Council Member Nadeau's office and our board chair, Norma Hutcheson, we have decided, or BEGA intends to also extend the district's FDS filing deadline accordingly to allow district employees and public officials to accurately, to complete their tax filings before filing their disclosures, so that way they can accurately file their disclosures. And then, as I mentioned, as you may recall, BEGA did the same sort of extension to reflect the IRS's extension of the tax filing deadline in 2020 as well. OGE formally, or rather informally, notified ethics counselors at our ethics forum and will issue a notice and change the website this week in the same way that we did last week. And we will use the same format that we used last year. I just wanted to send it to the council member's office since we didn't work there. This is our first year working together to see if it had anything else to add to the notice. But we still intend, as we always do, to notify filers of their obligation on April 15th, 2021. Now they'll just have until June 15th of 2021 to file, picking up on a theme from Attorney Stuart Mitchell. And this reflects feedback that we got last year at our oversight hearing from Council Member Charles Allen. She has focused a lot on streamlining and repackaging our information so that we got some feedback that it was overwhelming. And that's because our job is to be comprehensive, to let people know what their rights and obligations are. And so we are finding ways to provide that information and have it accessible for people, then also to provide them again with more job aids and templates. So she's drafted templates to job aids that we are sharing with ethics counselors to ensure that their notices to filers, if they're confidential, are clear, are specifically directed to the intended recipient, indicate the potential penalties, indicate that people should speak up and ask for extensions. So she did a really good job, I think, of giving examples of very strong notices and notices that maybe had some weaknesses so that ethics counselors could see what would be more effective and would make everyone's job easier in the long run. So once again, I'd like to commend her on that. A copy of the act and the related correspondence with the council member's office has been uploaded for your review. Next, with respect to administrative matters, we are still seeking an attorney advisor. As I indicated last month, we had posted the position, but had only received a few qualified candidates and decided to repost the position more broadly. The position will close on April 7th, but we will be expediting the review and interview process of filling this vacancy. Previously, our HR administrator had DCHR make an initial determination as to whether or not candidates best met our suitability criteria. And I believe that we can do a better and more efficient job in-house, given that we know what we need. And so we're going to go ahead and get those resumes directly so that we can expedite the process, because I've actually received interest just through the broader postings on LinkedIn and other forums. So I'm hoping that we will get a chance to bring someone in with some experience who can come and help the team. Next, with respect to reporting and to pick up on Board Member Nottingham's comment, thank you for pointing out that there was a comment that came in, but it was, I don't know if it was able to get into the record in time, so it will be in the minutes. But I have been working diligently, frustratingly, with our vendor to get the report just right. I even resurrected former employees' profiles to find old reports. The team has done a great job of going into the system and filling in every input. We have identified a workflow issue and have solved for it as a team. We will now have program assistant Tyrell Dow will now take responsibility for ensuring that our regular case list that we use for our meetings, that information is put into the system. An issue that we had is that once a case is closed, the attorneys can't go back in and put information in that they learned during the investigation, or that may not be there when we go to run our report. So we had to reopen every case, reestablish put the information in. And so that is what's causing the delay. But I believe the reports should be up by today or tomorrow, but they'll be up by tomorrow no matter what. So I do want to just be transparent that we have worked at it, but we are trying to get the report just right. Any questions, let me know. Next, with respect to financial disclosure and lobbyist matters, first to the lobbying registration and reporting program. OGE received 57 registrations, including renewals, and termination reports in March of 2021. No new activity reports were filed in March of 2021. The team also worked with IT specialist Yvonne Bridges to update the lobbyist portion of the website. Phase 1 removed dead links, and phase 2 will update the facing page of the for lobbyists to gather information to make it more user-friendly with more buttons and links, and to break out the training material. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but as I mentioned last month, we are working on improving the website in batches and in teams. So the FDS team and the lobbying team have regular team meetings. And we have a regular agenda, but they also have a working portion. And so sometimes that working portion, as the lobbyist team showed, was working with Mr. Bridges to change the website. We also have our interns, just like OG does, going through our advisory opinions to provide an index of the topics. So what we now have, if you're interested in finding something, is you can type conflicts and hope you find the right opinions that relate to conflicts of interest. We would like to have the interns go through and create a list of every opinion that discusses conflicts of interest or gifts or what's acceptable or that relates to council members. And we're going to have an index of those so that our users can find information more clearly. We do a similar index with respect to the negotiated dispositions as well, so they're equally searchable for council or individuals who are seeking to engage with BEGA. And then lastly, although it just left my brain, but I swear I'm going to get it back. Oh, we have the interns. One task they have is I identified benchmark jurisdictions. And so we used Kogel's Blue Book and identified, actually, well, I tried to pick 10, but I couldn't pick just 10. But I picked about, I think, 12 state entities and 10 municipal jurisdictions, and looked at their ethics commissions, all having public bodies who meet and have minutes. And we have had the interns go out now and begin to collect examples of their minutes that they publish and what they make publicly available. We are the Office of Ethics and Open Government, and we believe that we should be setting a better standard, or the best standard we can in terms of transparency. That's something that we know the public and the council have been encouraging us to do a better job of doing. And so we will also be improving our board materials. From what I can see, we'll probably be allowing materials that the board receives during the public portion to be easily accessible through the minutes with live links. So we'll go back through and add those, and we'll probably organize some of the format of our reporting. We just want to make sure that we are, just looking at what is sort of the consistent standard, providing you all with all of the information and giving the public with relevant information that they can use. Let's see. As a segue, Auditor Tajuba also is completing his lobbyist registration audit for fiscal year 2021, and we'll be discussing the results with the team to determine the list of late registrants for enforcement. The team has identified a template, which I'm about to sign off on, and I believe they have identified approximately they have approximated that we are due to collect about $12,000 in penalties. So I don't anticipate many waivers coming out of that, but if they do, we'll bring them forward to you. The auditor has also initiated a process to better track online lobbyist payments and more efficiently reconcile our payments received with the Office of the OCFO. Due to the pandemic, there's a lag in mail, and some lobbyists still pay with a check. And so we will have a certain amount as received in our office, and by the time it wends its way through the remote system and gets to the OCFO, we can almost have, I don't want to exaggerate, so Auditor Tajuba, please correct me, but sometimes we can be off by, I feel like, a month or two. And so our numbers can be dramatically different in terms of what we believe we have collected. And so we'd like to have more real-time accuracy as that shows better controls. Auditor Tajuba, anything else you want to add on that?
Yeah, we're trying to collaborate with the Chief Financial Officer Office, the OFRM, and we're working with them to see, our check collection are recorded to our BEGA account, in a timely manner. So we're working with them on that part.
So yeah. Thank you. We are working to get money more efficiently into our account, and we are also pushing, as I mentioned, to get a payment link this year in sort of a very standard request from the mayor's office about our fine and fee collections. And this is why I mentioned this is relevant. When I go to seek the information from the OCFO, they have a very different number than our in-house auditor. So significant that I have to sometimes, that I have to go back and we have to have a meeting to reconcile. And so we believe an online payment link will drastically reduce this concern and will allow us to much more quickly track that. So that's something that we intend to, we will work for that, but we will have online payment links, especially given the remote nature of work.
Director, can I ask you something about the revised form which was scanned? The questions about a spouse and the spouse's employer and the spouse's clients, if they don't have an employer, over the years is really, we've gotten a lot of pushback. Has there been any thought given to maybe fine tuning that question a little bit? Because I think what we're after as a government is to know whether or not someone as close to us as a spouse is in a position to benefit from, contracts with the government, any kind of, opportunity with the government. And that's why we want to know what's going on with them. But it just seems to me that if the spouse has no, and this is not me, this is the former Solicitor General that raised this. It just seemed to me that if the question should be more focused to get at whether or not the spouse works for any business or has clients with business before the district.
Well, one reason, hold on. So I want to make sure I understand was the pushback that it was overly broad, and so therefore we should be limiting it to only clients with business for the district? Or what was the concern?
Yes, that's exactly it. So I used to, in your shoes, field calls all the time from folks that would say, it's no one's business who my wife works for, or my husband, or let's just say spouse. Or my spouse is a financial advisor. He has 100 clients and they don't want to be outed. They don't want anyone to know. And so by working for the district government, you're giving up a heck of a lot of privacy. So I'm just saying, has there been any thought given to that? Are you guys receiving the same sort of pushback?
We are not. Well, actually, I'll defer to Attorney Asia Stewart Mitchell. I have strong feelings about this topic in general because I think I actually think it should say spouse or members of your household because everybody's not married. And I know you live with the richest person on the planet, but they're just your roommate. And so I have a different take on this, but I'm going to defer to Attorney Stewart Mitchell before I take a more philosophical take about the concept of disclosure.
Make a comment and then ask a question because I kind of remember some of this discussion from when I first started. And I kind of remember that I think maybe the form had just changed before I come to the agency, and we'd removed some portions of the spouse question, number 2, about outside business and income. Can you guys hear me?
Barely.
I don't know. I think there's something wrong with the volume on my laptop. Is it better now?
It got better once you asked.
Got a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I kind of remember this issue from when I first started. But what I remember us doing is removing the portion of the question that asks how much income the spouse brought in from this outside job or business. As far as I know, the form continued to ask about the spouse's clients, and that never changed. I'm open to that change, but I mean that part of the new form is the same as on the old form, and the part about the income is the same as well. It's not there for that question.
Right, I see that. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's been what the current state of that is, and so. I mean, I guess it would take legislation to change it.
Well, I'm not sure of that. That's what we're debating. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Asia.
I was just going to say that I contemplate potential pushback with regard to the changes in the question, not just the spouse question, but the question asked directly to the filer about outside income or businesses, because the statute talks about whether or not potential outside income or businesses have business with the district or want to do business with the district. But now we're just asking the question broadly, do you have outside businesses or outside income? And from those outside businesses, do you have clients? And we want to know the clients because we think that we're in the best position to kind of go through the person's clients and figure out who has a conflict. Oftentimes people don't disclose their clients because they don't know whether their client is doing business with the district, or they don't care to find out. So we're trying, essentially we want to try to tweak the form as best we can and still work within the statute, but get more information out of the filers. So if there is going to be some possible pushback. So go ahead. Sorry, Rochelle.
Actually, Darrin had a question, but I want to talk about this issue of confidentiality because there's a workaround. These rules are and but on a workaround. If your clients are confidential, let's say you're an attorney and your client's the target of an investigation, you're not going to be like, it's Bob, hey, everybody. If there's a reason because of privacy concerns or other reasons that you don't need to disclose your clients, say you're a dentist because $200 is low. I would say it would be a higher threshold. I think that there's a way to get around that. And so in my experience from helping to bring on presidential or appointed nominees who do disclosures and have to get confirmed by the Senate is, and a lot of those people have practices where they have fiduciary obligations. And so there's a real question about when they have to disclose. So there's a mechanism if there's privacy concerns, personal sensitive issues, or fiduciary reasons or legal reasons why you don't have to disclose your client, and we would make sure that would not be disclosed publicly. So that's one to work around that. So Asia did have a definition of client and indicated that if you believe that there is some reason that you cannot disclose your clients, please reach out to OGE, and then we can deal with those on an ad hoc basis. Asia, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I was just going to remind everybody that there is a mechanism for to grant somebody a waiver, section 224A2, which says that on a case-by-case basis, the board can essentially decide to, you know, have a person file confidentially just within the agency. So that is also available to people who, you know, might potentially have that client issue. They could just, you know, like we have had people who had safety issues who testified in murder trials and they're afraid and they don't want to disclose their properties. I think that mechanism could be used in this instance too, if they can, you know, basically state a case and say, my client is sensitive. I think that mechanism is there for them. So that probably would be a part of my response to pushback.
Yeah, I'm well aware of the waiver provision.
So I would, as the director, I'd like to comment and to just to add to this. So the changes that Attorney Stuart Mitchell, and I hope you guys have seen the form. She did a great job. It looks fantastic, by the way.
I'm looking at it now. It does look good.
She did a great job. And we had meetings as a team. We had, what, 3 or 4 working meetings when we went through, and the discussions that we're having now, we had as a team. We are all very spirited and committed to doing a good job and getting things right. So it actually is kind of fun, but we also at the same time looked at every question and thought about what changes are needed and what the concerns were. And we look back even at sort of, you know, a case that was relatively high profile, it stemmed from the fact that someone was making a large amount of income, but their clients weren't disclosed. That's the question. How can we determine if there's an issue? And so, one, I would first, I guess, give a very brief anecdote that attorney advisor Hooks and I encountered in doing the training. And we talked about it. We learned about a situation where someone, a public official on an ANC was going to vote on a matter and was giving in a, you know, was talking about a matter, and the person that got defense, they were opposing it. And the person who wanted this decision made took the person aside and said, "Hey, I'm a client of your spouse's. I'm just saying, maybe I don't want to be a client of that spouse anymore. So I'm just letting you know." So now that person is darned if they do and darned if they don't. Because even though they were all against it, there's also a concern, maybe they changed their mind. So now they're knocked out. They've been tainted. So the person has in essence been able to knock them out. Whereas if that disclosure, and if they had known that, they could have discussed it as a group and said it's not a concern. Perhaps the partner was a dentist. And, you know, all right, well, you won't puke through his teeth. That's different. Here's an interest where someone, that's their main client, and they're doing a renovation, and it's a $30,000 renovation. That sure changes the perception, and a lot of this is about perception. And so the purpose of the statute is to know that if you or someone who shares your finances, in other words, the finances to be imputed to you, you look at spouse, but a member of your household, if any of those connections, your financial interest could possibly be impacted. That was completely inadvertent. The person was just doing their job. They didn't even know that their spouse had that client, but the person used that. And so I actually would believe that A&T Commission is certifying, given that we are the only people in the district who actually probably have outside employment during the day or have some other, they ought to disclose their finances directly and their conflicts. And so we are of the mind that people don't actually have to disclose the amount of money in their bank account or track their transactions, only have to really disclose your property in the district, that one, what you need to know about your spouse's interest, but also last out of this. So the notion of they do business with the district or might or seek to could change tomorrow if the laws change, right? So anybody can potentially do the district. And so, you know, who would think that somebody's food truck suddenly now there's a big issue about where they can be permitted or parked if that wasn't something that you could even foresee initially, or it wasn't regulated or whatever. So you never know if someone's business at some point could become the district business because the laws are always changing. So that's why we ask people, plus it's hard for them to determine what the. So I think the goal was to get people with, you know, patience and, you know, dentists, but there's a way we can find the balance without being onerous. We're definitely amenable to that, but we do want transparency.
It's my 2 cents. I think the balance should be asking whether or not your spouse currently has an employer or clients that currently have or are likely to have in the next 12 months business before the district? And if the answer is no, skip the question. If the answer is yes, then you've got to disclose the clients, you've got to disclose the employer, you've got to go through the whole thing. With a reminder, of course, that if the answers to the question changes, there's an obligation to amend your financial disclosure statement within the 12 months. I just get the sense that there's a lot of people out there who are not pushing back, but they're also not complying with this.
That's fair.
No.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I can hear you.
Not to
So your
hold things up.
qualifier is, I just want to be clear, so your qualifier is it's the business before the district piece, but putting a time frame on it. So there's some anticipatory aspect to it?
Yep. Yep.
And we could even say if you reasonably believe or it seems possible as opposed to,
Yep. Yeah, whatever language, but just again, the trigger is, it's one of these things where we're not just looking to get into people's personal lives and their marriages.
Exactly.
And there's a bunch of other, I'm sure there's a bunch of spouses out there that don't have a very, like marriage is marriage and business is business, and they don't bring their work home. So I had a few calls when folks would say, I don't know what my spouse does, what clients the spouse has. I barely know where he or she works. So.
I have been that person. I've had to call my husband frantically on May 14th and say, I don't even understand what's going on here. Tell me what's going on. The pension lawyer. So I can, but to whom much is, I would simply say, but to whom much is given, much is required. But I would also say that your point about, being onerous and overly intrusive is well taken. What I don't want is for someone to be like, well, is to take it to a point that it becomes sort of overly burdensome for them.
And again, on the confidential side, it's not too much of an issue. But when you're talking about publicly posting all of that stuff, people really, we don't want to lose our best and brightest who are willing to become, engaged with the district through employment or an appointee or something like that. So anyway,
your point is well taken, but I will tell you that the not having to actually disclose your transactions and explain and make sure they make sense from year to year makes this one of the easiest forms I have seen, and we have looked. It's another intern project pulling up the S forms to see. So, but it might be actually helpful. We did an agent did a good job, but looking at that type of question, because I think that's something that's attention that we all deal with. But then you see a case in the paper where it's so and so, and then we all think we should have asked. So thank you for the good feedback. I made it very clear.
No worries. Always happy to help.
I was going to send you some direct questions, so don't worry. I have your number. Let's see. As I indicated, the main change to the form we did discuss already here in trying to capture better clients. We also are going to have employees and public officials certify that they have received their ethics training as they're supposed to do. And we got a lot of feedback before about the tax questions because people would need to file an extension, but felt like they couldn't answer the question honestly. Now we've allowed them to acknowledge that they have, made an attempt to fulfill their tax obligation or in good standing. So we're responding to feedback overall, and we're still going to seek feedback from our ethics counselors. So that's very helpful. Anything I'm leaving out, Asia?
No, just some other minor tweaks. Stuff like we ask people not to use abbreviations and acronyms on the form. Actually, I've noticed a couple times I was using financial disclosure forms as a part of investigation, and I was trying to look up the company where a person said that they worked, they had an outside job, and they put an abbreviation, 3 letters, and I had no idea how to figure out what company they were talking about and be sure without contacting the person. So just small stuff like that. Don't use abbreviations, don't use acronyms, and different small tweaks throughout the form to kind of streamline it. But those are the 3 major ones was the changes to questions 1 and 2, and the tax change, and then adding the certification question about have you had ethics training in the last 365 days.
Hopefully we'll get better, we'll have, more compliance, we'll see. Next, an update on our pilot program for confidential filers to file electronically. As we mentioned last month, we are developing along with OPTO a pilot program to allow confidential filers to file. To date, 6 agencies with a total of 101 employees have signed on to test the e-filing system for confidential filers this year. Program specialist Klosik has been in contact with different agencies as well, who are also expressing interest. We did upload the filer that was being reviewed, but we are aware that the key issue here is ensuring that those disclosures are confidential to the agency. We have no interest in being able to get in there and look at them at all. We have allowed us to proceed with an audit. We expect the agencies to have their own private access and the ability to look at them. And so it's more about ease of use and having common instructions and everything in one collected place. So thank you. This concludes the Office of Government Ethics report for April 1st, 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Are there any other questions for Ms. Ford before we move on? Okay. The next thing on the agenda is confirm that there are no public comments that were submitted by 11:15 today. So had any been received, they would have been published with the minutes from this meeting.
Chairperson Hutcheson,
Yes.
there is one public comment, Asia.
Okay.
Yes, we have one public comment from a gentleman named Ruben Legaspi, and I believe he has a financial disclosure matter that he wants to discuss.
Okay. But we don't entertain this meeting. They just become a part of the record.
Yeah, I mean, he's been advised that any comments that he makes today will become a part of the public record.
Okay. All right, so then we'll move to this next thing on our agenda, which is the executive session, the closed session. And this is a closed session, ongoing confidential investigations pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B14, to consult with an attorney to obtain legal advice and to preserve the attorney-client privilege between an attorney and a public body pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B4A, to discuss personnel matters, including the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, performance evaluation, compensation, discipline, demotion, removal, or resignation of government appointees, employees, or officials pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B10, to deliberate on a decision in which the Ethics Board will exercise quasi-judicial functions pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B13, and to discuss contract negotiation strategies pursuant to DC Official Code Section 575B2. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Board members, please log out of this session, log into the executive session, and then once that concludes, we'll come back to this session to report out any matters decided or to finish any other business. Thank you.
Chairperson Hutcheson, you're still in a
Yeah.
public session.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, it's now 1:31 PM and we are resuming the public portion of our meeting. There were no matters to report out, from our executive session. There was one member of the public who wanted to speak, who I understand is no longer with us. His concern was resolved during our executive session. And also during our executive session, Ms. Tucker joined the board members present. So there were actually 4 of us present for that part of the meeting and for this part of the public meeting. And if there's nothing else to discuss, then we can adjourn, and our next meeting will be on May 6th at 12 noon. Thank you, and thank you to all the members of both parts of the office for your work.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Have
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Be safe.
Yep. Take care.